Hi guys, this is Kiri with Healthfully Rooted Home, and today I want to give you a highly requested video, which is the activities that I do with specifically my toddler. Now, I'm splitting this video up into character building activities, aka obedience activities, and connection based activities. So, just spending time with my toddler, tying those heartstrings together. Ephesians 6:4 says, "Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord." And then also it says in Colossians 3:21, "Fathers, don't provoke your children lest they become discouraged." And so in order to not provoke specifically my toddler right now, I have a 2.5-year-old and a 4-month-old. So in order to not provoke him to anger, I do a good, healthy mix of character building activities and connection activities. Now, before I get into my lists of activities, I want to be clear that I don't think that as parents, we always have to be entertaining our children. I do think that it's important for them to be able to self-entertain so that us moms can get stuff done. I mean, we have a whole house we have to take care of and, food we have to cook, lots of things we have to do. And it's important for them to understand that their job is to play. And mamas have jobs too, or parents in general have jobs too. So I don't think that we need to always be entertaining our own children, but I do think that we need to proactively be thinking about how we can create connection with our children intentionally. So some of these activities literally take like 5 minutes. It takes hardly any time, and some of them take a little bit more time. And sometimes I will just set him up with an activity and then I'll like sneak away and do something else once he's into that activity. Or, sometimes I'll stick around sometimes he'll even say like, "Mama, sit, Mama, sit." And I'm like, okay, yes, I need to sit down and look him in the eyes and build that connection with him. So let's get into the list of connection activities. That's what I'm going to start with, connection activities to tie those heartstrings together with your children. So the first clips that you saw in this video were me just dancing and worshiping with my son. This is something we have always done. Obviously, what we're doing right now is coloring together, and rather than just setting him up with colors, which I sometimes do, but if I'm actually making this a connection activity, rather than just setting him up, I will actually color with him and I will ask him questions about the colors, and I'll say, "What shape do you want me to draw?" And he'll say a triangle, and so I'll draw that. And so there are ways that you can make just the simple task of coloring a connection building activity. Something else that I'll do is we'll do like field sketches. So we'll go outside and I'll get a leaf and I'll say, "Let's draw this leaf." And obviously he just scribbles, but I'll draw it. And then sometimes we'll sit down and we'll just do other random crafts. So we'll get some glue and feathers and things like that. Or we'll get stamps and all kinds of crafts, and we'll make cards for people. Sometimes we will bake together, or we'll play hide and seek either with each other. So, one of us will hide and then we'll try and find the other person, or with objects. So I'll take an object, and obviously you can make this super age appropriate. So with him, I make it like a very brightly colored kind of larger object that will be easy to find, and I hide it in a more obvious place. And I say, "Okay, go find this, whatever thing it is," and then he'll go find it. So hide and seek is a really fun one. And then, of course, we'll do flashcards with whatever we're working on at the time, whether it's letters or colors or numbers. So another connection building activity is not really an activity at all, but it is simply sitting with your children while they play whatever they're playing. My son loves to just play with his cars on his little blanket or sleep sack that he has. and he just wants me to sit with him. He doesn't even necessarily want me to drive the cars. He just wants me to sit with him. And so that's a really good connection building activity, is just doing nothing but sitting with your toddler. So another connection building activity to do at home, I forgot that I split these activities up between at home activities and then like adventure activities, so like outings. So another at-home connection building activity is we like to build forts. And then there's all kinds of things you can do inside of the fort. You can read books, you can play with cars, I'm sure you can think of a million things you can do. But just the act of building a fort is so fun for a kid. And so often we will build forts and just hang out in the fort. The adventures that you could go on that would be really good connection building activities would be going to a pond and feeding some ducks, or just finding a new park. I mean, I'm sure that you take your kids to parks, but sometimes it's nice to find a new park. So doing that, or going on a little nature walk. Sometimes parks have little trails that aren't much. It's not like a proper hike, but it's just a nice little trail. So you could do that. You could go to a pet store and look at all the different types of animals or birds or snakes, dogs, cats, whatever they have. That's like a free activity. You could go to a library and read books. The library by us actually has this really cool indoor play area, so that's great for rainy days. You can go to children's museums or play dates. I host a play group at my house in the summertime, which is really nice because we get all our friends together, and I have a big backyard and all the kids just play together, and it gives the moms a chance to just drink iced coffee and talk to each other. So it's a lot of fun. But yeah, play dates and play groups are great. But then I also do some seasonal activities, and I do have a video on this, which I will link below. But every new season, I plan out all the fun seasonal activities in our area for that season. And I write it all out, and I kind of put it on the calendar, and just try and keep those activities in mind, because when a season ends and you forget about, oh, the farm nearby does an activity for children. And so I try and have those at the top of my mind every new season. And so we'll do that. So, like I said, I have a specific seasonal planning video that I'll link down below for that. Okay, so then another connection activity. There's a lot of different things you can do with this, and you can also do this indoors or outdoors depending on the season, but water play. So here we're doing it outdoors in this little picnic table thing that we have that turns into a water table, that turns into like a little sand table thing, but just water play in general. There's so much you can do. Get a bucket, fill it with water, put some cups in there, put some sponges in there, and just play in the water. It's so simple, but the kids love it. Something else you can do, and something that we are doing pretty much daily this time of year, is go berry picking. This is obviously a seasonal thing, and we are so blessed to have raspberries and strawberries and blueberries just right in our backyard. But even if you don't, you can find somewhere to go berry picking. But my toddler just eats the berries. He doesn't do much of the harvesting of them other than just directly into his mouth. But this is such a fun thing, and you can teach them too, like what ripeness in a raspberry looks like versus when it's not ripe. And so it can be a learning activity too. The next connection activity is chore time. So I hope that my kids never find out that chores aren't supposed to be fun, because my little boy loves chore time. He loves helping out. So just involving your kids in chores. Now, I will say, I like my house cleaned a certain way. So chore time with my son is not legitimate chore time, if that makes sense. I do have a separate time where I do chores, but when I involve my son in chores, this is literally just a connection building activity and a training opportunity for him. I go around and I clean the house myself. So if you're like me and you like things done a particular way, then just know that you can just use chore time as a connection and training opportunity. Very good. Okay, high five. Okay, all done. Now let's shut this. Uh-oh, there's a sock. All right, now shut this. Good. All right, now let's get on your stool. Press this. Now, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So another way to build connection with your toddlers does not even have to include an activity at all where you're sitting down playing with your toddler. You can be up and doing your own thing in the kitchen, washing dishes, making food, whatever you have to do while your toddler is, let's say, eating a snack or playing or whatever. And if you're just singing or counting or singing the ABCs or asking them questions, that is building connection as well. Okay, so now I'm going to get into what I call character building activities. These are also known as obedience games, and there's a couple rules that I follow with these activities. One is that I always make it fun. The whole goal of these activities is to just make it so much fun. You want your kids to want to obey and build character. There are certain activities where I use rewards and certain activities where I use consequences. And you just need to use your best judgment for which ones you're going to do which approach. And then the rewards and consequences you use is up to you and your family. So I'm not even going to get into that. So the next rule with character building activities is to make sure that everyone's in a good mood. So if your toddler is not in a good mood or you're just having a really difficult day, that is not the time to do a character building activity. That would be the time to do a connection activity. And then after you do some connection activities, then you can do character building activity. But make sure that everyone's in a good mood. And then the last thing is you want to end on a good positive note. So if you're, trying to do a connection activity with your toddler and they're really struggling with it, if they have like a 5-second run of doing a good job, stop it right there and give them all the praise in the world and then try again another time. So this character building activity that I have been showing is called Boundaries. I just call it Boundaries. And basically I'm showing Jackson where his boundary at the end of our driveway is. And I trained him on this by just repetition over and over and over again. I would have him run and stop at the boundary, and then he would ride his bike and he would stop at the boundary. Again, the key is repetition and making it fun. So with this one, I did it literally as long as he wanted. And so I think the first time we did this activity, it was like at least 30 minutes that we practiced his boundaries. And I kept asking, do you want to keep going? And he'd say yes. So we did. So for obvious reasons, boundaries are immensely important. I don't want him riding his bike into the street or running into the street. I want him to know that line in where our gravel driveway ends and where the street begins, so that it's just second nature that he just halts right before he gets to the street. This character building activity is where he puts his hand on my hand if he wants to talk to me, so that we can teach him not to interrupt or not to say mama, 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 mama if I'm talking. And so we just build up the amount of time that he has his hand on my hand and how long he has to wait to talk. Hi. Yes,
Jackson! What do you have to say to Mama?
This next character building activity is teaching him to introduce himself to someone while looking them in the eyes and saying, nice to meet you, shaking their hands, and saying their name.
What else do you say?
I meet you.
Look me in the eyes.
Nice
Look me in the eyes.
to meet you.
And say, my name is Jaxie.
My name is Jackson.
Look me in the eyes and say, my name is Jaxie.
My name is Jackson.
But you have to make eye contact.
My name is
Eye contact. Where are Mommy's eyes? Look at my eyes. Good, look. You want to play stop go?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you so excited? Are you so excited? Yeah. Okay. Do you remember how to play the game? This is what you do. When Mommy says go, you run. And when Mommy says stop, you stop right away. Okay? Come here. Remember, you obey Mama right away, all the way, and with a
Happy heart.
happy heart. Good job. Okay, now remember, if you don't stop when Mommy says stop, there's a consequence. Okay? Okay, you ready? Ready? Okay, hold on. I didn't say go yet. Stand right here. Okay, ready? Set, go. And stop. Yeah! Good job, good job, good job, good job, good job. Oh, good job. Good job. High five. Here. Double high five. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, let's do it again. Ready?
So obviously you can see with my super embarrassing display of praise that I'm giving my son here, that is what it's all about. It's making it fun. It's giving them easy wins so that you can kind of complicate the games a little bit more as they get used to them and as they get a little bit older. I think I forgot to say that another rule when you're doing these character building activities is to initially always explain the rules of the game. So like right here, I'm explaining to my son that what we're going to do is we're going to sit down quietly and we're not going to squirm and we're not going to talk. And if you do talk, then there's going to be a consequence. Now, if you were doing a game where there was going to be a reward, then you would say, this is what you're going to do. And if you do it, then you're going to get this reward. So always explain to them, of course, the rules of the game so that they have a chance to get it right.
Of course, he's a toddler, so I give him some grace. But yeah, and then I'll just work up from, starting off with like seconds, like 30 seconds, then go up to 2 minutes, then go up to 5 minutes, and then all the way up to like an hour. So let's say they're having a really tough time with one of these obedience activities. Even if, like, let's say this activity. Quiet, baby. Let's say this activity. Let's say he's having a really hard time, or your kid's having a really hard time, but they have like a 5-second spurt where they're doing good. Make like all the noise in the world, give them all the praise in the world. Be like, yeah, you did it. You did it. You're so good at sitting still. You're so good at sitting still and being quiet. Mwah. Just like that. Okay, we're going to play another game, okay? And if you do a good job, you're going to get some peanuts. So let's listen up. Come here. Sit. So this is a new game for you, okay? This is something we're currently working on. When I say to do something, here, come here. Sit right here. When I say to do something, you say, yes, Mama.
Yes, Mama.
Yes, good job! And every time you say yes, Mama, you get a peanut. Okay? Okay?
Mama.
Okay, ready? Stand up. Say yes, Mama.
Yes, Mama.
Good job! Sit down. Say yes, Mama.
Yes, Mama.
Good job! Remember, every time I say to do something, you say, yes, Mama. Okay? All right. Ready? Put your hand on your head. Say yes, Mama.
Yes, Mama.
Good job! Now, can you jump? Show me how you jump. Say yes, Mama. Say yes, Mama.
Yes, Mama.
Good job. Come here. Now, touch your toes. Say yes, Mama.
Yes, Mama.
Good job! So this one's kind of a combination between one that I showed you actually in a previous video where I'm just getting him used to obeying, but in a fun way. So I'm saying jump up and down, or touch your toes, or touch your head, or whatever. And then he'll do that, but it's fun. So then if I say don't run in the street, or if I say stop when he's about to run in the street, then he will just be used to obeying me. We're getting his obeying muscle strengthened. But this is a combination because I also want to teach him to always say, yes, Mama. If I say, take a bite of your eggs, he says, yes, Mama. If I say, go clean up your toys, he says, yes, Mama. It's like, I want it to be second nature for him, for everything to be, yes, Mama, yes, Mama. You can kind of tell the different activities where it makes more sense to use like a reward. In this case, I'm giving him peanuts versus like a consequence. Okay, Jackson, we are going to sit here and play with our toys on this mat, okay? Don't get off the mat. Okay, and if you get off the mat, you get a consequence.
This is so amazing because it gives me time sometimes to cook dinner or get the dishes done with my toddler just being focused on the mat. It actually comes into handy a little bit more when they're a little bit younger. So I would say probably around 18 months is when this is an amazing activity because it's kind of right before they get really good at independent play, and it teaches them to be good at independent play. I'm showing you this video here because I wanted to put this in here because all these activities are obviously geared towards toddlers, but there are also ways to create connection with your infants, and really that's just looking them in the eyes, making faces at them, making different noises, letting them touch and feel you, and all of that. So let me get back into the character building games, and I just wanted to list off a few more. One thing we like to do is giving versus receiving game. So I'll give my son a treat that he would really like himself, but I have him give it to his daddy. And if he doesn't throw a fit, then maybe daddy will share. But it's so important to get your children to understand that they're not always going to get the things that they want, and they have to give it to someone else sometimes. So like if you're going to a birthday party and they have to give the little kid a present, they need to not throw a fit with that. And so getting that giving muscle developed is really important. And so I'll just try and incorporate Jesus into it by saying, Jesus says it's more blessed to give than receive. So another one is asking to be excused from the table, having them ask that any way that you want them to ask that. So you can teach them to say, may I please be excused, or however you want to do that. Another one that I hit really hard with Jackson when he was, I don't even know, probably around the time that he started walking actually, is come to mama. So every time I say come to mama, he would come to me, because if you have a toddler, you know that they find it fun to run away from you when you call their name, and you can't indulge that. You can't let them indulge that. So you need to train them to come to mama. And the way that we did that is I had my husband help me out with this one. And so I would tell my son, come to mama, and then Joey would grab Jackson and bring him to me, and I would give him tons of praise. I would say, good job, good job, good job. And we would just do that over and over again. So remember, repetition is everything. And so every time I would give that little boy praise, when Joey would bring him to me after I said, come to mama, he would associate coming to mama with so much praise, and then he would get used to that. So then after he got used to obeying that command, come to mama, with praise, by then he was developed a little more to understand that when I say come to mama, the right thing to do is to come to me. And so then that is when I started to incorporate a consequence if he didn't. But I always started off with just tons and tons of praise. So that's all I have for you today. I hope that this gave you some great training ideas for your own children. If you have more ideas, please leave them in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. This is Kiri with Healthfully Rooted Home.